You've tried eating the way your friend eats and it didn't work for you. Or you read some study that said, eat this way and lose weight and feel amazing, and you tried it and felt terrible. Maybe you watch someone swear by keto or intermittent fasting or going vegan and they look incredible. And you did the exact same thing and your body said, absolutely not. And then you blamed yourself. You thought you weren't doing it right. You thought you didn't have enough willpower. You thought there was something wrong with you. There isn't. The problem is that we've been sold this idea that there is one correct way to eat, one perfect diet that works for everyone. And that idea is not just wrong, it's contradicted by actual science at the most fundamental level. Here's a number for you. Identical twins share 100% of their DNA. And research studying identical twins have found that when you feed them the exact same meal, their blood sugar responses can be completely different. Some genes, same food, different results in the body. If the most genetically similar human beings on the planet can respond differently to the same food, what does that tell you about the idea that one diet works for everyone? I'm Debbie, a holistic nutritionist. Been doing this for 15 years. And what that means is that I look at the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. And in 15 years of working with people around food, one of the most important things that I've learned is that the person sitting across from me is an individual, not a study, not an average, an individual with their own biology, their own history, their own gut microbiome, stressors, relationships with food, and what works for them might not work for the next person. And that is not failure. That is biology. Today, we're talking about why there is no one-size-fits-all diet, what actually determines how your body responds to food, and what that means practically for how you should be eating. So I want to spend a minute on this identical twin research because it's the kind of thing that should change how you think about dietary advice permanently. There's been some genuinely fascinating research done on twins, identical twins, looking at how they respond to food differently despite sharing the same DNA. What they found is that things like blood sugar response, fat storage, gut microbiome composition, and even food preferences can diverge significantly between identical twins. People who grew up in the same house, eating the same food with the same genes. The reason comes down to a few things. Epigenetics, meaning how your genes are expressed, which can be influenced by your environment, stress, sleep, and experience over time. Your gut microbiome, which develops based on what you've been exposed to, what you've eaten, what medications you've taken, what environments you have lived in, and your individual metabolic history, what your body has learned to do with food based on a lifetime of inputs. What this means is that two people can sit down at the exact same meal and have genuinely different physiological responses to it. One person's blood sugar stays stable and the other person's spikes. One person feels energized, the other crashes. Neither of them is doing it wrong. Their bodies are just different. And yet every diet book, every trending eating plan, every well-meaning advice column is written as though this isn't true. Diet culture has one business model, and it goes like this. Here is the one right way to eat. You just haven't done it correctly yet. Buy the book, follow the plan, and when it doesn't work, it's your fault. Keto works great for some people. It makes others feel absolutely like shit. Intermittent fasting helps some people regulate their appetite and stabilize their energy. For others, particularly women in perimenopause, and I will say this loudly, it can actually increase cortisol, disrupt hormones further, and make everything worse. I know for me personally, it does not work. I can go from supper to breakfast, but more than, say, 14 hours and I'm hangry. Vegans are genuinely health promoting for vegan diets are genuinely health promoting for many, many people. Others struggle to get enough of a certain nutrients, without animal products and need to find a middle ground. None of these approaches is universally right or universally wrong. They work for some people in some contexts, and they don't work for others. And the reason the diet industry doesn't want you to know that is because if you understand that your biology is individual, you'd stop buying the damn books and start actually paying attention to your own damn body. Here's a piece of this that I think is genuinely underappreciated: your gut microbiome. The trillions of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms living in your digestive system. It is as unique as your fingerprint. No two people have exactly the same microbial community. And your gut microbiome has an enormous influence on how you digest food, how you absorb nutrients, regulate your blood sugar, and how you manage inflammation, and even how you feel emotionally. Two people can eat the same high fiber meal. One person's gut bacteria ferments that fiber efficiently and they feel great. The other person's microbiome isn't set up for that particular type of fiber and they're bloated and uncomfortable for the rest of the day. That's not weakness, that is microbial individuality. And here's the thing about the microbiome that connects to something that I talk about a lot. We typically eat the same 10 to 15 foods week after week, day after day, the same rotation, the same foods, the same meals, and we're just eating it again and again and again. And this is where your microbiome can actually suffer because you're not eating enough of different foods to create a good microbiome. So it is recommended that you should be eating about 30 different plants in a week. 30, you say? How the hell am I going to eat 30 different plants? Well, it's pretty easy, really. And it's not the same 30 every week either, to be blunt and honest about this. Variety, rotating what you eat, eating seasonally, trying things you don't normally buy, and all of that is feeding a broader range of your gut bacteria and building a more resilient internal ecosystem. So you want to make sure that you're introducing new vegetables, new grains, particularly vegetables and fruits. This is the biggest thing for your microbiome. This is where you're going to get new microbiomes and more gut bacteria and healthier gut bacteria. So make sure you're introducing new foods weekly. So it's not about following the right plan. What does determine how your body responds to what you eat? There's a few things. Your gut microbiome composition, as we just talked about. So that influences digestion, nutrient absorption, blood sugar regulation, and inflammation. Your hormone status also matters. A woman in perimenopause is working with a completely different hormonal landscape than she was at 35. Insulin sensitivity changes, cortisol regulation changes, how your body handles carbohydrates, fat storage, and energy changes. What worked for you a decade ago or when you were a teenager definitely won't work the same way now. Not because you failed, but because your biology has shifted. Your stress load and sleep quality. These are not separate from nutrition, not at all. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, which affects your blood sugar, fat storage, and it affects how your body responds to the food that you eat. Poor sleep disrupts hunger hormones, specifically the ghrelin and leptin ones. I talk about those ones frequently, which affects how much you eat and what you crave. You can be eating perfectly and sleeping 4 hours a night, and your body will still be working against you. Your food history and relationship with food. This is the piece that gets skipped constantly in nutrition conversations. If you have a history of dieting, restriction, or disordered eating, your body has learned some things. It's also adapted. It has developed protective responses. And those responses are real and they affect how you metabolize and respond to food in ways that a generic eating plan will never account for. Your genetics and epigenetics, how your body processes certain nutrients, how efficiently you can convert certain compounds, what foods you're predisposed to handle well or poorly, all of this varies by individual. That doesn't mean nutrition doesn't matter. It does enormously. And there are things that are broadly true. Whole food is better than processed food. Fiber matters, protein matters, and vegetables matter. Inflammatory foods do damage over time. Those things hold across for most people. But the details, how much protein, which carbohydrates, what eating schedule, which specific foods, these are individual. And the only way to figure it out is to pay attention to your own body. Not what worked for your friend, not what worked in the latest study that said about the average participant, your body. What I tell clients is to start paying attention to how you feel after you eat. And not just immediately after, an hour later, 2 hours later, maybe even the next day. Are you energized or crashing? Are you satisfied or hungry again in 90 minutes? Are you bloated, clear-headed, foggy, moody? Is your body giving you information constantly? This is your body giving you information constantly. Most of us have been taught to override it and follow the pain instead, or follow the plan instead. Rotating what you eat matters. If you're eating the same things every week, you're limiting your microbiome diversity and potentially missing nutrients that your body needs. Try new vegetables a week, rotate your grains, and switch between different types of beans and lentils. Eat more seasonably if you can. Summer produce in summer, fall produce in fall, winter in winter. You get the idea here. And that seasonal rotation is part of how humans ate for most of history. And it's part of how our microbiomes are evolved to work. Also, where you grew up and the foods that you ate, those matter. So maybe trying to adopt different nationality foods into your diet may not work for you because your body for millennia, because your family lived in Scotland, has adapted to that. And so trying to add in new foods like that might not necessarily work for you. And get comfortable with the idea that what works for you might look different from what works for the person next to you. It's not a flaw, that's individuality, and it's worth respecting. And don't forget that your body changes over time. So what worked for you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you were a teenager, might not work for you tomorrow or 10 years from now. And maybe in 20 years' time, it might all work again for you. This is the whole thing about being an individual. There is no perfect diet that works for everyone. If someone is selling you one, they are selling you something. The research on identical twins alone should be enough to put that idea to rest permanently. What there is instead is food that broadly supports human health, whole, varied, minimally processed, rich in plants, and within that, an individual body that responds in its own way and deserves to be paid attention to. Your job is not to follow someone else's plan perfectly. Your job is to learn your own body, feed it well, vary what you eat, and pay attention to how it responds. That's a lot less marketable than a 30-day program, but it's the truth. So if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more No BS nutrition advice, and I'll see you in the next one.